Today we're working on solving quadratic equations by factoring. So we're going to set the equations equal to 0. And briefly, here's why. When we have a quadratic equation, we end up with a parabola. And the parabola is the U shape that you're all used to. But we're looking to see where it crosses the x-axis. So in this case, the parabola would cross here, and it would cross here. So this is when y is at 0. So we need to figure out what these two values are. Now, if we multiply anything by 0, it gets us to 0. So in the case that we have when we factor, either one of these could be 0. Because if I have 3 times 0, I have 0. If I have 0 times 4, it's still 0. And if I do 0 times 0, it's 0. So in any of these cases, anything times 0 is 0. Given that, we can apply that here. So we're going to set up two separate equations. So we're going to take this first thing that's multiplied and set it equal to 0. And then we're going to come back and take the second thing we have multiplied and set it equal to 0. And then we're going to just work them through like we would a normal equation. So subtract 3, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So n equals -3. Do the opposite. Add 2, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So n equals 2. So here's my answers for this kind of situation. Where do I cross my x-axis? I have this one and this one. These are my two spots. Now, let's take another step and go this direction with it. I still have two equations because I'm already factored. They're both equal to 0, or maybe one is and the other one isn't. So let's set them up and solve this situation. So the first thing we need to do is subtract 5, because whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And I have 4k equals -5. Now, this is multiplied. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides, because whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So there's one answer. And here's my other answer. So if we were looking to see where these cross the x-axis, if I was to set up my parabola, we would be over in this area here. We would be over in this quadrant. Now, let's take a look at something that looks a little bit different, but still similar. So here we have two things multiplied together. Here we have two things multiplied together. So don't be fooled. We're going to set this first thing up that's multiplied, still set it equal to 0, because you're not quite sure which piece is equal to 0. So in this case that we've been working with today, we just default to both of them. So this one's done. And then this one we subtract 2, y equals -2. Here's my other piece. This one is now done. Give it a try.